Hello and welcome to now the fourth global call of the Digital Delegation Program of the Justice Coalition of Religious for the 2025 High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. I think that name only feels longer the more times one has to say it. But I thank you all very much for joining us once again. A wonderful group of delegates who come from congregations of Catholic sisters, brothers, priests, as well as their many partners all around the world. And we continue today on our journey and our preparation for the high-level political forum in July. And today we are coming back together after having had a new experience of independent exploration and independent work to follow a regional forum that has happened in each of your respective regions of the world in the last 2 months. And so our time together will be dedicated largely to hearing our various experiences of following those different regional fora, each of which is kind of a building block or a stepping stone that will be the foundation for the global forum that we are preparing for in July. So before we get into all of those details for today, let us begin as we always do by coming together in a brief prayer. Let us pray. Leadership is hard to define. Lord, let us be the ones to define it with justice. Leadership is like a handful of water. Lord, let us be the people to share it with those who thirst. Leadership is not about watching and correcting. Lord, let us remember it is about listening and connecting. Leadership is not about telling people what to do. Lord, let us find out what people want. Leadership is less about the love of power, and more about the power of love. Lord, as we continue to undertake the role of leader, let us be affirmed by the servant leadership we witness in Jesus Christ. Let us walk in the path Christ has set, and let those who will follow. Let our greatest passion be compassion, our greatest strength, love, our greatest victory, the reward of peace. In leading, let us never fail to follow. In loving, let us never fail. Amen. So thank you all and welcome once again. And you notice we took the theme of leadership in our opening prayer today because as we continue down this road that we are walking toward the high-level political forum on sustainable development, we will be handing more and more of a leadership role to each of you as you prepare to be the ones who will offer your insights and your observations and your analysis, as well as your good practices and you will become leaders who are contributing to the conversation in a meaningful and active way. And so for that reason, we took on the theme of leadership today. So just to once more quickly review the plan for today. First, we will do some checking in on a few ongoing tasks, which you all have been pursuing and working on, attempting to make contact with a civil society network that is monitoring progress toward the SDGs. And the other ongoing task that we are continuing to work on is attempting to join the VNR, or Voluntary National Review Team, that will respond to your government's SDG progress report in July. So we'll check in on how everyone's doing with those two tasks first. And then we will move on to sharing reflections that each of us may have from our respective regional fora on sustainable development. And then finally, as we usually do, at the end, we will look ahead to two upcoming tasks, which are finding and reflecting on the national SDG progress reports that were submitted by members of civil society in your country. And those would have been submitted in the context of previous sessions of the HLPF, because almost every government has reported at least one time in the past. And so there are reports from civil society from those past sessions. And then the other task we will look ahead to is, of course, this is always a task we will be looking ahead to, is continuing to think and plan about how we will each contribute to these events that we call the JCoR SDG Labs, which will happen the week after the forum in July. Okay, so the first bit on checking in on how we are doing in making contact with the civil society networks that are monitoring SDG progress in our respective nations. So as you will recall, you were provided with links of at least some possible active networks that are operating in each of your countries. And we know from our last call, when we were checking in on this the first time, that some of you made very noble efforts to reach out to some of those networks and discovered that some of them do not seem to be active and some of them do not seem to be responding. And so you are trying additional networks or different strategies for trying to make contact with them, or hoping that you might hear something from them in response to your inquiry sometime between our last call and today. And so I wanted to check in again with all of you who have been attempting this task, and to see if there are any updates, if you have had any new progress, or if you are still struggling to communicate. So the first question that I'm putting out to all of you today is, have we had any success? Have we managed to make contact with any of these networks that are operating out of, or at least in the past, were operating out of our respective countries? So I will stop sharing the screen for the moment so that I have the opportunity to see anyone who may be interested in speaking. And if you have something to share in response to this question, if you have your camera on, you can feel free to just raise your actual human hand. Or if your camera is off today, then you can use the digital hand, which you can find. There's either a raise hand button, which has just an image of a hand, or if you do not see that, you may need to look at the More button with the three dots, and then look for reactions. And there under reactions, you should find a button to raise your digital hand. And if everything else fails, when there is a pause, you can just unmute yourself and say, "Excuse me, I would like to speak." So we don't let technology become a barrier to anyone having the opportunity to share if they wish to share. So having given all of that instruction, I would love to hear from all of you about how your efforts have been going to try to make contact with these civil society networks in your country. Is there anyone who has had an experience in attempting this contact that they would like to share with us? And I see the hand of Ebby. Okay. And Barnabas, can you tell us which network was that that's replied and to that they would send you an email? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Just so I can help keep track of which ones have shown what we would call a sign of life, just to know that they are still active and someone is there kind of monitoring the mailbox. It's good to know that there's someone there, even if they are slowly responding. That's a helpful update. Neelam, please.
Yeah, greetings to all. I have contacted through the NGOs. So they responded from Finland. So Finland has or is organizing for the uh, Economic Commission of Europe, and that is RCEM, Regional Civil Society Engagement Mechanism. So I was invited by the secretary Sylvia B. Beals. And last month we had one meeting, and next month we have another meeting on 22nd of May.
Wow, that's excellent. Now, Neelam, is that so it's the regional civil society engagement mechanism. So
Yes.
will they be preparing like one input, one report for all of Europe, or are there going to be smaller groups within for each country? Do you know?
That is only for Germany. So Germany, we are 7 members from different NGOs. We are together.
Okay, great.
In the meeting, we were 6 members and 2 could not attend. So 2 will be attending. In the mail, we are in contact in the mail.
Excellent. And what all were you able to accomplish in the first meeting?
Uh, First meeting was more of rapport building, then data inserts, contact sharing with each other. So everybody agreed that their contacts could be saved and their contact emails could be shared with other groups. And two members have also shared some of the links to read from last uh, voluntary national reviews.
Great. And hopefully that looked familiar to some of the reports that we also have been circulating here from past years too. That's great.
Yeah.
You're a step ahead.
Okay,
That's
thank
great.
you.
That's wonderful, wonderful that you've made that connection. Very good news. Thanks, Neelam.
Welcome.
And Sister Ida, please share with us. Por favor.
I'm going to speak Spanish. Hello, everyone. I have not received any news from the civil society networks that were in the slide in the list, but I have received an email from the Democracy International Union Confederation in Brussels. And I've been invited to participate in a Zoom meeting to prepare the report for South Africa, the civil society network report. I said that I just wanted to listen to because I don't have much experience and I was reluctant to participate actively and because my English is not that good. But in the end, it was just me in the Zoom with this man who also spoke Italian. So in the end, we were sharing the experience that I have in South Africa, what I know there, and we are waiting for a trade unionist who is supposed to attend as well, but couldn't come last time. And at the end, this Mr. Thomas has posed a lot of questions that I answered. And then he said, okay, I'm going to prepare the report with this trade unionist. And in the end, we will send it to you and see if, well, maybe you can share it with other people that have more experience than you. And this is the steps we have done so far. I was lucky.
Wow, Ida, that is amazing. And so very fortunate that, you know, you were able to find someone with whom you could communicate so nicely. And, you know, it is amazing to think that these teams, the VNR teams, are representing civil society from a whole country, and yet people are not aware of this opportunity to participate. And so you find yourself in such a small group that will be preparing the contribution. But I hope that that encourages you to know how important your observations and your insights are, that so often the peoples of each nation are not aware of, you know, these little mysterious ways that they are able to have their voice in the process of the UN. And so there are really so few of us who are watching and waiting and ready to seize the opportunity. So I'm so happy that you are there and that you are able to make your contribution. And I hope that there will be more who will join you. But how good that you are there. So that it is not only government who will speak for South Africa that day. So that's wonderful. And I hope that the trade unionists will come through and join you and maybe others as we come closer to the actual forum. But excellent. That's great to hear. And I see the hand of Sister Rita. Please go ahead, sister.
Good.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we do.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, depending on your time zone. Good morning, good afternoon. I was opportune, like the Nigerian that spoke. The last time I said it was difficult, so I was able to get to the group that had a meeting with you the last time, the general meeting, and I wrote a couple of times, and eventually they answered me. And they're going to include me in their WhatsApp. So they sent the outcome of the meeting, and I was so struck by that. At least I've read it a couple of times on SDG number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Of course, in Nigeria, the issue of inequality and gender sensitivity is an issue. And I must say that many NGOs and civil society organizations have been fighting this. I mean, the crime is on the increase, is way. Abuse of children, abuse of minors, in whatever form, and it's mostly women. Luckily enough, I'm working with a group. I belong to Child Safeguarding Committee. And I can tell you that is, sometimes I feel very sore inside. I feel sore with what is happening within homes. But then these organizations, they are very active in prosecuting people. And then the next one they shared, which also I've said something about to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. A lot need to be done in Nigeria, because most often some of these cases don't come to the front. Nobody hears about it. And then sometimes when the victims are not the victims, the perpetrators are caught, oftentimes they disappear and the case can be treated, except few organizations that will take it online and make it big for people to join. But the one that is very, the one of, I think SDG number 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. My government is not too transparent in that aspect, I must say. And the civil society, as they raise their voice from what they share, that a lot need to be done for their voice to be heard. And most importantly, the conservation of the earth and the conservation to conserve and sustain the use of ocean, sea, and marine resources for sustainable development. My country is going to be eaten up with plastics and nylons. A lot has been said, but it's not implemented. And with this group, we'll see how much they can, they can push the government for, sustainable implementation that is effective for the common, because the environment is being eaten up by this plastic and they're not degradable at all. The last of it that gave me joy, since I was not part of this meeting, they're scheduled to have another meeting next week and I've been invited. So it's my pleasure to be part of that so that I can share my own. Because what I wanted to share is the aspect of human life, the increase in kidnapping, insecurity. More than 120 priests and religious have been kidnapped in the past 7 years in this country. Some have been killed, even after ransom have been paid. And it's still, every day you hear that. And what is the government doing? Nobody is doing anything about that. They can only talk about it, but the kidnapping, the insecurity is way too far. So by the time we go for this meeting on next week, I will share that aspect from that perspective. Thank you so much.
Sacerdote Oscar Barrera.
Hello, Teresa.
Yes, sorry. I was just manipulating some of the settings in the room. Thank you very much, Sister Rita.
Okay.
And I am glad that you have been able to make contact with the team.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it sounds like they're already quite organized, having put together some reflections on each of the SDGs that will be reported upon. So that is very good
I want
news.
to tell you, Nigerians are very good in writing reports.
Well, that is a considerable portion of what is happening at the UN on a regular basis. So that is
Yeah.
good for participation in a UN space. That is a good place to begin. And to organize your thoughts as a group in advance is very good work. So I'm excited that you have joined them in that effort.
Yeah, I hope that with the writing, they'll be able to carry out, because they write beautiful report, but that's just there. It's just paperwork at times. Just paperwork.
Mhm.
Yes.
And do you know, you said they're meeting again soon, in sometime this month?
Yes, next week.
Next week. Okay, very good. And will you be able to join them then?
Of course, now that they've allowed me.
Oh, great, great. Wonderful news. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Okay, is there anyone else who has something to share about your attempt, whether it was successful or not? Anyone who has something to share about making a connection with the team from civil society in your country? Please, Babita, yes. Okay, very good. Now, is there anyone else here who was wanting to join the team from India, who has not received that message? Because if not, we will try to relay the invitation so that everyone can join on the 15th. Is there anyone who needs that invitation shared with them from India? Yes, Sister Julie. Okay, great. And so if I understand correctly, that would be the same meeting that Sister Rita was speaking about joining. Is that correct? Okay, great, great. Well, very good. I'm glad to know that some connection is there for you, and I'm sorry about the difficulty of connecting with, another more local network, but I'm glad that you are now connected to the team who will respond to the voluntary national review. So I'm happy that all of your effort has produced that result anyway in the end. Okay, and I see there's a question in the chat box from Oscar Barrera. about receiving an invitation from the major groups and other stakeholders, the NGOs that people have been speaking about. So we will come back to that in just a moment. But for now, I want to hear from Sister Norma. Please go ahead, Norma.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Sí.
Well, it's a pleasure. Good morning, everyone. I'm very new to this experience. I just put my name down to it, but I was able to listen to the last recording, the last meeting you had. And so I think I'm updated as what this task is about. And I understand that we need to join a group to assess the SDGs in our country. And I suppose it is an organization that is devoted to the task. And I was not able to find that. But I have talked to 3 different congregations that are interested in make a contribution, in offer their opinions on the VNRs. And that's why we are working on that. At the moment, we are preparing a kind of questionnaire with several questions, especially related to the SDG, related to the environment and water. The other one is human rights, and more specifically about inclusion and loss of rights. And another aspect is the SDG number 3, good health. So I cannot give you a broader report, but I can tell you that I have contacted already 3 organizations, and it is nice to see that inside the organizations I have got in contact with, it's mainly women who are interested in these topics. And there is a good information flow. We have been sharing very good analysis to the point. And so I believe that the report in the end can be very good, really. And it is what I can share with you so far. Thank you very much, and greetings again.
That is great news. Thank you, Norma. And I'm so happy that you are with us and you were able to go back to the recording and make yourself familiar with our plans and our progress. And you are most welcome to continue with us for the rest of the journey. And it sounds like you also have begun some very good work of making connections with others in your country who are ready to have a real strong voice in the process, which is very, very exciting to hear. And so I have just put into the chat the link for anyone who has not yet been able to join the team from their country. This is the team that will kind of create the official response from civil society during the forum. And so this was very, very important. If you have not already completed this form, please do it if you can, even today. And do not wait another day, because as you heard from some of the others who have already joined their team from their country, the groups are meeting very soon. And I think a lot of the work will happen very quickly after their first meeting. So you will not want to miss that first meeting opportunity if you can. And so the link is there in the chat box. It's there in English and Spanish, but the link is the same. And if anyone needs any help, if you have any question about that form or any difficulty in completing it, please let me know and I will be happy to answer any question you have to ensure that you are able to submit that form. And if there is anyone who has already submitted the form, but you have not heard anything from anyone, either it would probably come from the name of major groups and other stakeholders or MGOS, or it could possibly come, as Neelam had said, from a group with the name like Regional Civil Society Engagement Mechanism, because of course all of these UN groups have very long, complicated names. But if you received any email like that, that may be the invitation to join the team and to participate. So those would be messages to look for. But if you completed the form and you did not receive any email, as far as you know, from one of those groups, and you're still waiting for some kind of invitation to come together to meet the team, then please, this would be a good time to raise your hand and to let me know. And then I will work with you to hopefully we can make a connection with the organizers of those groups and we can find out if there is a message coming or perhaps there was a message that already was sent and it didn't reach you. But it will be good for us to take action quickly so that you are able to join the group as they proceed in meeting and starting to create their shared report. Okay, so let's come back then to the question from Oscar. And if I have it correctly, Oscar, you are coming from El Salvador. So can you tell us, were you able to fill out the form and did you hear anything from the group that was organizing?
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from El Salvador. I've not filled in the form yet. And well, I didn't receive the link. That's what I put down in the chat box. So I didn't receive any information from any group or institution that was working on an answer to the VNR. But I received a call from an NGO that is working with topics that are related with the SDGs. They are working in ecology and feminism, ecology and politics, community organization. And in 15 minutes, I might have direct communication with the secretary of this NGO. I was told that there is a person in charge of reviewing the progress of the SDGs. And I just sent an email, a message to Norma, who is in El Salvador, to see if she can join and get some information from the secretary of this group. Very recent news.
Wow, yes, that's great, Oscar. So, okay, so we still need to connect you with the VNR team or ENV in Espanol. But it sounds like you have another connection that is very good. And can you tell us, Oscar, the name of the group that you have had communication with?
Yes, of course. It's called UNES. They have a website. And the full name is Ecology Unity for El Salvador, or something like that, translated. It's National Unit for the Salvadorian Ecology, roughly translated. There are different topics they've been working on, but it's everything on the website. So I've checked what they have uploaded there. For example, sustainable development in society. They have a report on that. And they define themselves as an NGO that fights for the protection and conservation of environment in El Salvador, both nationally and regionally. And there are different topics they're working on. So when I contact them and I ask if they had information on how to follow up the progress on the SDGs, is when they answered that they will put me in touch with the secretary. And so as soon as I have further information, I will tell you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for connecting with Norma also. I know you can form a strong team. And maybe I'm not sure if we have anyone else from El Salvador on the call today, but if we do, hopefully we can get everyone together with any meeting that you may have, or just get everyone connected. That will be beautiful.
Yes, of course, I will keep you updated.
Wonderful. Thank you, Oscar. Gracias. And now could we hear from Joseph Babu?
Hi, Teresa. Hi. I'm speaking from India, New Delhi. I'm actually working for the Viva International, the coalition of 11 religious congregations, of which I'm in India now, the sister, Holy Spirit sister. Some of our associates are also present in India, and we have regular meetings regarding a number of issues. And lately, we have identified a couple of issues we want to focus on. Clearly, issues are women, children, religious freedom. These are some of the issues that we are concerned about in our country, particularly in the context of many provinces in India or states in India passing legislation, curbing religious freedom. So that has affected the expression of diversity in this country. So that's a serious matter we are dealing with. We are also, coordinating with some of the organizations in the country. For example, Green Millionaire, it's an initiative by JCoR to promote ecology and environmental sustainability. So corporate houses are supporting that. Environment and the chiefs are also serious consideration by how we work in the national. Another area we are focusing is the indigenous people and their rights, which I think UN also is taking very serious. So almost 8% of India's population from indigenous tribes, and they have their issues regarding their land, displacement, or education of villages. So they are facing several issues. So these issues are also coming under our legal study, and we are working with a number of organizations for indigenous people, particularly those who are migrating out of their own place of living for various reasons. So we have organizations looking after the interest of migration, young men and women day of work. So we are networking with not only our religious organization, but also with the other secular organizations, even with the governments, so that very interesting. So these are some of the initiatives that we are taking, and of course, we are also preparing a report on the SDG, Special Development Goals of the UN. We will be having a meeting shortly in the month of June and July, then we will take it as well. Yeah, I'm closely following your programs, although I'm not able to attend all the time, but certainly interested in joining the initiative and supporting your efforts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And this group that was getting together to discuss, you mentioned you'd identified women, children, concerning legislation that was a threat to religious freedom, as well as damage to the environment, to ecology, and also the forced migration within the country, some of the themes of your concern. Did you say this was a group of the congregations who are part of Vivat that came together, or was this a larger group?
Beginning with the Viva group, we also have co-opted with others, even people who belong to other religions also. So in our discussion, we also invite others.
Sorry, I'm missing some of your details because your audio is not coming through perfectly. I don't know if you're able to change your position a little, or maybe there's a microphone on your
What
headphones.
I was trying to say was
That's much better.
We are not confining to the religious congregations. We also co-opt others, even those who are not Christians, but who are very much interested in these issues. So we have certainly larger group focusing on some of these issues. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
And were you also able to join did you get the invitation to the meeting that Babita was talking about on the 15th of May?
I think I got the invitation in my mail. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
If not, let us know and we will make sure you have the details.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We certainly have a lot of members of the JCoR community who are in India or are from India. So I hope we will have strong participation in that group.
Yes, definitely.
And Caridad, please go ahead.
Good morning. Greetings from the Dominican Republic. Can you hear me?
Sí, perfectamente.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, greetings to you all. And well, I could say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because I'm aware that not all of you are in the morning in your time zone. Anyway, the first thing I wanted to explain is that I wrote to two NGOs. Well, one NGO that is called Alliance of NGOs in the Dominican Republic, to request information and to know if they were working on a report for the HLPF, and requesting my participation in those activities. And I wrote to another network that is a promoters network from different countries, but the Dominican Republic is present this. And I remember it's called NURIS or something like that, but I haven't received an answer yet. And I also completed a form. I don't know if there is a direct response or it should come through Rohan. I had some communication through Rohan, so I don't know if that's the answer or I need to wait for another answer. Who needs to answer to the form? So this is a question, because I don't know if I get a little bit confused with the different groups with which we are supposed to work. So I have not had any contact with another person on the VNR, but I've seen that in several meetings I've met with other members of the Dominican Republic who are getting connected in these network meetings. Thank you.
Okay, good information, very helpful, Caridad. So unfortunately, Rohan is not on the call right now, so we can't clarify that with him in this moment, but we will. And for my own clarity, you're saying, so you did the same form that I have just put in the chat box, you submitted that some time ago, is that correct? Yes, okay. Okay. So probably then there should have been some response. When you submitted the form, did you use your own email, or did you put in one for Rohan, or your own? Okay. Okay. If it was your own, yes, then you should have received something, I think, by now. So maybe we can follow up with the organizers. And it could be some teams maybe are organizing more slowly than others. So it may just be that team has not come together yet, but you said you did hear from other people in the country who seemed to have, with the team that they joined, the ones who already have come together. Do you know, was it the same form, the same group, or is that not so clear?
It's a different thing. I'm talking about two different topics. First of all, I wrote to one of the networks that are in the list that you shared. As I wrote to two, the Alliance NGO, and the other one is Red Internacional de Promotores ODS, which is a civil society network for different countries, among which there is the Dominican Republic. I haven't received an answer yet. And on the other hand, a second topic, I filled the form in with my personal email, and I haven't received anything. I have received an email, though, to participate in a meeting for people who are preparing a kind of report, but it was a kind of a subgroup of volunteers. I don't know if that's what you mean. And then I participated in another meeting with less participants, and some of them are in this process and others aren't. And so we were talking about separating us from the group to write a report. And third topic, I was not able to get in touch with other people from the Dominican Republic that I've seen that they are participants of this program, of the JCoR program. I've seen in the chat that there are more people from the Dominican Republic here in the JCoR formation program, but I've not been able to get in touch with them.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was so clear. So it sounds like it may be that the email that you did receive is the group that is formed, that was created through that form in the chat box. But if you happen to have it in front of you, if you know who the sender was, that may help us to be certain if those are that group is connected to the form. because some of them organize under different kinds of names. Do you happen to have the name there in front of you?
Give me a second, I'm going to check my email because I received that email some time ago, just before the last meeting we had in those days.
Mm.
And so I don't know. In fact, in the last meeting here, you said that they were having a previous meeting to clarify the questions about the structure of the report, etc. And recently I received an online form to give my contribution on the HLPF with 3 or 4 questions. And I answered it, of course, and we sent it. But nevertheless, if you can give me a few seconds, I will check the email. You can continue talking to another person. I don't want to stop the communication here. And I will, or I request the floor again, or I can type it on the chat so that you see who is the sender.
That will be perfect, Caridad. Thank you. Yes, and yes, even if to type the sender in the chat, that will be perfect. I will keep my eyes there for your message. Okay. Is there anyone else who had an experience to share from trying to join a team or make contact with a civil society group in your country? I do see there was another message from Yamelith, who shared that she was able to join the team, the VNR team from Ethiopia, and they will also have a meeting on the 15th of May. So that's good news. It seems the 15th of May is a very big and important day. It seems that is when many of the VNR teams will have a meeting. So that's more good news. Thank you, Yamileth, for sharing that. Yes, Ligia. Bienvenida, por favor.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I already filled in the form for Guatemala. And I see there are other members here like Zulia. I'm very happy to see her. I also received the answer to the form, and then I was put into the WhatsApp group. And so I am in the WhatsApp group for Guatemala. They answered, they told me that we are meeting on May 12th. So it seems that we are starting to work. So I just wanted to say that I am in touch with the group, that I've been reading everything, not reading, sorry, seeing the meetings, the JCoR meetings that you have had in the past, because I was not, it's the first day that I joined, and I'm already in the civil society work group for Guatemala. And I believe Zulia can add something to this.
Ligia, ¿tiene algo por añadir?
It's okay. I don't need to add anything. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. That is more good news. I'm so happy to be hearing this from all of you, that connections are happening and teams are coming together. So sounds like Guatemala will be on the 12th of May. And we have another message in the chat from Sister Reggie, who's joining the group from India, that she has also received the invitation for the India VNR team on the 15th of May. So lots of good action happening on many different fronts. That's great. And if any of you are just thinking, oh, I have not, I've been meaning to do that, or I haven't gotten around to it, it seems to me the form to join the team from your country, the forms are still open. So if you just follow the link that is in the chat box now, and complete the form today, I think it seems to me that it is still possible for you to be part of all this action. So I hope that you will do that. It really is one of the strongest and most direct ways to contribute your voice and your experience into the official proceedings of this forum. And so it's really a valuable opportunity. And as you heard from some of the other members of the delegation earlier on today, often these groups are quite small. Obviously, that will differ from country to country, but often the groups are quite small. So your voice really is significant. And even if your experience in a country has been brief, having any firsthand experience is much better than a group with no firsthand experience to be able to give insight and to make a response to the government during the forum. So any experience you have is worth bringing to the group. And I hope you will complete the form if you have not done so already. Okay. So I think we have completed the checking in part of our session. So I will move ahead now to the second piece of our agenda for today, which is to reflect together on the experiences that we have had following the Regional Fora for Sustainable Development. And of course, each of these has occurred in each of the global regions since, well, at least since our meeting in February. There was one for Asia happened in February, and then all the others have happened since our last meeting. And so for anyone who had the opportunity to follow at least some part of the forum, whether it was by following along online when it was live, or by viewing a recording later, or perhaps by reading a report or a document that came out of the forum. I invited you all to reflect on any piece of that forum by asking yourselves kind of three big questions, which is, how does your experience align with the reports and the perspectives that were shared? And then secondly, how does your experience conflict or disagree with the reports and perspectives that were shared? And then finally, are there additional insights or recommendations that you would want to contribute if you were in the room? So another way of asking that final question is to say, what was missing? What were the gaps in the conversation? Who was not being spoken about? What area of concern was not addressed at all? And so I want to now offer the floor again to all of you. And again, you do not need to have seen the entirety of your region's forum. But if you saw even one session or read one outcome document, We would really love to hear from you about your thoughts and reflections on that regional conversation. So is there anyone who has a reflection that they would like to share with the group from this regional conversation? And I see the eager hand of Zulia Mange. So let's please begin by hearing from Zulia.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm in Guatemala. I belong to Procladeu in Guatemala. And I didn't participate in the first part of the conversation today because I was not able to contact anybody in any network. But I've been listening very interested and attentively. In the last meeting, Hector Santizo and Father Espinosa were present. I suppose that they were not able to come today out of work reasons, I guess. But if I, to tell the truth, I watched the forum yesterday very briefly and very quickly, but it was quite interesting. What drew my attention was that when the Guatemalan delegate took the floor, he said that he had participated. Well, I've participated in other forums on women, but everything that he said was very specific, very concrete, and I was quite in agreement. So I want to keep it short. He was talking about the national reforms that were taking place in each country. And he asked for help to see how the family aspect could be integrated, because one of the main topics was migration, of course, and he was aware that many of the people that were attending the forum were working on the ground, and in Guatemala, the amount of money it's received for migrants, it's 21 million, which is a huge part of the national income. And so he said that he didn't know how to work with the families of migrations. The second topic that he was talking about is corruption, because the NGOs that are working with the governments need to work a little bit on the side, because otherwise their financial means disappear. And then he was saying that the government has not so much financial means, and it relies on international aid, but any aid needs to go through parliament, and due to corruption and due to every small level at the government wanting to have a cut of it, that the government has no financial means at all. But at least he was very sincere and very candid about it. And there is a pact between the legislative, the parliament, and the two parliaments participating, and the government. So the legislative, the two bodies of the legislative and the government are participating in a body. And he also requested, well, he said that corruption is also present in that body, both at the legislative level and at the executive level. And he talked about the structure of institutions that are like mixed institutions, partially public and partially private. Like, for example, the electricity network in our country is participated by the state, but also by a group of cooperatives. But the problem in Guatemala is that corruption is present from the very small level at the family level and even to the highest office in the government. So he talked about $71 million being kept aside because they don't want anybody to have access to them because they are bound to disappear if they move it. So they are kept aside and they are not being invested at all. And he also talked about the structure of public institutions as well, which is very, very important. And he said that the taxation system is based on a unique identity card for each person in the country. So we all have one single identity card with one number, and it is used for everything. And the people from the networks said that that was not enough to avoid corruption. And so in Guatemala at the moment, there are a lot of demonstrations to request a change in the taxation system, etc. Oh, sorry, because I'm being a little bit chaotic, but at the end, he answered a question about how to transform processes in Guatemala so that everything can get better. And I believe this is very, very important for Guatemala. He said that the 2030 agenda should be included in the national politics. And I totally agree with it, not just me, but different women I work with. So he insisted that the national politics should take the Agenda 2030 as a key stone. And he said that Agenda 2030 is like an umbrella that covers many people from many different ideologies, from communism to abortists, to Catholics, to everybody, because everybody agrees with this ideal of the UN. And it is very nice to have a common umbrella with people from so different ideologies. And this is he was fighting for it to become like a flagship in politics. So this is what I could gather from the regional forum. And I believe this government, despite what the representative said about corruption, etc., I believe that I gathered that this government is trying to recover some authority. Is a democratic government, but is using tools to fight against corruption and against all those things that are afflicting the country. So the tools are there, but our impression is that the government is not really using them. So there was a rumor of a coup as well. So I don't know if it is going to happen or not. And maybe the government is not being so proactive and not using that tools because they don't want to get in conflict with the other parts of the, I don't know, that wants to organize a coup. I don't know. That's the summary.
Thank you so much, Zulia. And I wonder, do you happen to note the name and the title of that minister? Because that is very refreshing perspective that he was so honest, so candid.
His name is Carlos Mendoza, and he said he was the planning secretary, but I don't know planning of what, presidency planning, or I don't know, I'm sorry. But he said he was secretary for planification.
Okay, well, that is good to know. I think he sounds like he's someone who would be good to have an honest conversation with if he is ever here for the forum or for some other reason. So that is good for us to know. And it is a refreshing change to hear someone speak, so very thoroughly and openly about corruption. And it is also very encouraging to hear his enthusiasm for the codification of the 2030 agenda into national policy, which is, of course, we would hope would be the goal of every nation. But in this moment, we are actually seeing some who are moving in the opposite direction, and now presenting some opposition, even though they agreed 10 years ago to the goals. And it's even more important to hear this endorsement in your region, because one of the countries who is kind of pulling away from the agenda is Costa Rica. Was not so a distant neighbor of yours, and of course we know when one government kind of relinquishes some commitment, then sometimes other governments will feel that they also have no responsibility, and so it's especially important to hear and to lift up the voices of those in government now who are really supporting the agenda and the power of it, as you said, which is to bring together people from so many groups and ideologies around a common idea and a way to the common good. So that is a very encouraging reflection from you. I'm happy to hear it. Is there anyone else who was able to follow some part of the forum from your region and would like to share any thoughts or any surprises, any pieces of information that were powerful, anything that you took away from the forum? Hey, I will also add, if you are in our WhatsApp group, which I hope you are, but if you're not, you should let me know and I will try to make sure you are added immediately. But we tried to get everyone into the group, and just there, I shared the slides or one particular set of slides that have links to all of the recordings that are available from your particular region's forum. So if you were not able to view any of the sessions in the past, but you want to find time to do that sometime between now and our next conversation, you can find all of the links there, so you can go back and revisit the conversation. And we will be very happy to have your insights from that later on as well. And as a reminder, the reason that we encourage you to follow some part of that forum is really because it does become a foundation for the global conversation that will happen in July. And it is always interesting to get a perspective on the regional conversation that exists within the global conversation. Because of course, within your own region, there will be more time and space for each country to kind of lift up, to highlight its own challenges and its own progress. and it may give you some additional insight into how the themes of progress and the themes of challenge are different in your region than they may be in other regions of the world. So it's good to get that detail for your own background before we enter into the global conversation. So I hope if you have not already watched at least one session or read one document from your region's forum, I hope you will follow some of those links in order to go back and to revisit them before we meet again. And I see the hand of Caridad. Please go ahead, Caridad. Caridad, if you're speaking, we're not able to hear you. You are muted.
Yes, sorry. I was looking for a document. So I was not able to follow the whole forum, the 4 or 5 days, but I was able to read and listen to the report that was presented by the regional secretary. I don't remember his name. And this report said, I thought it was very pertinent and very to the point. It talked about the development around production and the goals that have been set for 2030 and 5 years later. So we are moving in the right direction, but we are still below the level, the expected level. And so he mentions some percentages, 38% he mentioned. And in that analysis, he also mentioned 3 important aspects that are linked to the development pillars in respect to the traps that Latin America is facing when we talk about development, which is very important to understand how they are linked to the different SDGs in America, Latin America, and the Caribbean. The low development rates, the low employment rates, the inequality and low level of mobility, of social mobilization, and they are connected to poverty and inequality. So the main challenges were to be seen in that respect. And it's derive in a low governance capacity by the governments. He also mentioned that the feeling, the general feeling is that all climate changes are not reversible. And he was explaining how all these factors are interconnected and are leading to a stagnation in the different 5 indexes that are being used to measure the progress in SDG 3, 14, 7, and 8. So despite certain indicators having improved, there are still a lot of challenges and even setbacks in high number of indicators, which taken as a whole set, the goals are not going to be achieved. And he also what drew my attention in this whole report is that he offered a structural analysis of the whole region, but I thought that that analysis was lacking a position and a point of view focusing on the heterogeneity of the different countries in the region, because every country, how can I put it? He was very concentrated on data, on numbers, on figures, but he forgot about the particularities and the features in every country. Which analysis might allow us to find solutions, because it is not the same to study poverty just based on figures than analyzing the reality that is leading to poverty in a certain country. So I believe there are possible solutions to these problems that were not discussed from my point of view, of course. I think his report would have been richer if he was not just concerned with numbers. Of course, after the presentation that I listened to, I read the report to go deeper into it. And everything that is related to economic growth and employment and linked to migration as well was very interesting. But I believe that the role of migration in the development or lack of development of the countries economically seen was not mentioned enough or not studied enough. And it is a factor that is contributing to the development or lack of development of a country. And of course, he didn't talk about gender equality either. So the trend in this report seems to be to talk about gender equality just in the legislative framework, that laws need to be passed, etc., and always linked to gender violence, etc. But the point of view of equality, not just gender equality, but equality included gender equality, was not approached in that way. So it's not included in a practical way. And that is, in my point of view, it is limiting progress, because most of the SDGs have been improved, and there are laws and different regulations that have been passed to give them an impulse, but real development is not there. It's the indexes are showing that there is a stagnation in most of the SDGs. So I believe that they are approaching all processes, all topics, and all countries as one single pot. And it is required to have a more intersectional and egalitarian point of view to approach the diversity of realities that we have in the Latin American context. Thank you.
Thank you, Caridad. You make so many important points, especially in your critique of the report that was given. And I think it is a good lesson for all of us to take, that indeed, while we have many challenges in common, that we do need some detail in our perspective, as at least the detail at the level of country to country, which of course, many of us countries are big and there is even much more detail that we could add even within a country. So at the very least, we should be able to always have analysis at the level of a country. in order to really understand the pathway to solutions that will be effective in each place. So a very important point, that it is important to get that country by country identification of at least the root causes of a particular issue so that we can understand what solution might be effective. And I also want to take that as a lesson for us to say that this lack of detail, as well as the focus on data and numbers that is very common in these kinds of reports. This is a common way for stories to be told in a UN forum. And so it is for this reason that it is so important that all of you are also able to participate and to bring human faces and human experiences into the story to accompany the data. Because of course the data is important and it does tell a story in its own way. But it often lacks the passion of a human experience that is really more motivating than graphs and charts and numbers can ever be. And so when we bring our own experiences and stories of real people who are affected when, for example, we fail to implement legislation that prevents gender-based violence, for example, how does that affect a particular woman in a particular country? What is the result? And our experiences help to bring that important piece of the reality back into the conversation that is happening around why we created these SDGs in the first place. It's to help reduce suffering among the people. It is to enable a greater quality of life and more dignity. It's to enable harmony between human beings and the rest of creation. And so we need to always be bringing the conversation, even when it is important to deal or to communicate in data. We must always link that data back to reality, real human and environmental experience. So those are very important observations. And I will say that historically, the definition of development was focused very much on economic development. And so what you observed in that report with this strong emphasis on SDG number 8, which is kind of the main economic development SDG, it may be the case that in many of your country's reports, you may find there might be much more emphasis or analysis around that SDG than some of the others, even though, as you have mentioned, they are all connected, they're all integrated. You cannot separate the idea of gender equality from economic prosperity, or from care for the oceans and the rivers and streams. So another important task for all of us in the context of our contribution and our conversation, our contribution to the forum, is to always be bringing all of these aspects back together and not allowing any analysis to separate them, and not allowing the economic aspect to become superior to the others, because we understand that reality is much more integrated, and also that the economy is important, but only because it serves the needs of humans and the rest of the living community. And it's not the other way around. It's not that humans are meant to serve the economy, but it is the reverse, that the economy serves the common good of human beings and our earth community. So important lessons that we are already learning from the regional fora that we can carry forward into the global forum as well. So thank you so much for those reflections, Caridad. And I also want to quickly answer your question from earlier. It looks like the email that you received, the vnr.mgos, that is like the big global group. And so you should, because you completed that form from the chat, you should be getting a different message from the subgroup that's just for the Dominican Republic. And so I think since you did not already receive that, it might be good for you to write, and you could even respond directly to that same email address that you put into the chat. You could write to them to say, I completed the form to join the VNR team for the Dominican Republic. I have not yet heard about any meeting. Is there a message that I missed, or is the group not yet gathering? But just to check in with them. And someone at that address should be able to answer the question.
Okay, I will follow on that. Although in this email, they just welcome me and they tell me that they are going to meet May 15 again at 8 o'clock. But I'm going to answer to this mail asking for the group of the Dominican Republic more specifically. Thank you.
Great. Yep, I think that's perfect. Okay. Very good. Well, some very strong reflections from the regional fora. And again, I will share again that collection of links to the recordings. So if you have not yet seen any part of your region's forum, I hope you will follow at least one link and watch at least, one session just to have a sense of the conversation. Okay. And now that will bring us to the last short piece of our session today, which is to look ahead. Go here. Okay, so this is a little bit of a reminder. If you were on the call last time at the end of March, this will be familiar to you. But I just wanted to remind everyone that when we meet next, which will be on the 2nd of June, we will have an opportunity to share more reflections on some of your independent study about reporting on SDG progress from your own country. And so before that meeting, you are asked to look at the past civil society reports that have been submitted from your own country. And so I have shared links to a whole collection of reports from each of your countries. And you certainly, if there is more than one link for your country, you certainly do not need to read every report, but I have collected them there. So you have the option, you can choose from which year's report you want to read. And again, I will say, if the report from your country is very long, it is not essential that you read every single page of the report, but perhaps you might want to select one section dedicated to a particular issue or a particular SDG that is very dear and important to you, and maybe just focus on that section of the report. So if by chance your civil society from your country put together something very massive and very long and difficult to read, do not be overwhelmed. Just find one particular section that is very meaningful to you and give your energy to that, and do not worry about the rest. And then again, on these slides, which will be sent to you, there is also a link to some of the very short statements that were delivered by the VNR teams from your country in years past. So this is an interesting example for you of the kinds of statements that you will be producing with these VNR teams that so many of you have just said you're joined or will soon be joining. So if you want to see kind of what the end result looks like from those VNR teams, you can come to this database of the major groups and other stakeholders and find your country, and you will be able to do that by typing your name into the box there, the search box. And then the result that comes up, there will be a link where you can open the report, or rather just the short statement. And these are very brief because they have to be delivered in under 2 minutes. So if you have even a couple of minutes, you would have time to read how the VNR team responded to your country's government in the past. So that's something else that would be interesting to do between now and, honestly, even between now and when you meet with your own VNR team. It will give you good perspective on the goal, what you're working toward. And finally, I just want to remind us all again to keep in mind as we get closer and closer to July, that in the week following the high-level political forum, your kind of capstone or your big project to build to at the end of this program is that you will each be invited to offer a contribution to the series of events that we call the JCoR SDG Lab. And it will be essentially a Zoom call like this, except we will have one session that's dedicated to each of this year's priority SDGs, which are number 3 on healthcare, number 5 on gender equality, number 8 on decent work and sustainable economies, number 14 on healthy aquatic ecosystems, which are lakes, rivers, and oceans, and then goal number 17, which is partnerships for sustainable development. So as we move toward that experience, please be thinking about which of these SDGs you think you might like to speak during the SDG Lab, and begin to collect in your mind if there are any specific projects or ministries that you're involved in that contribute in some way to that SDG, because that would be very good and helpful information to share with us during the SDG Lab. So once again, the quick recap for your next actions after our call today is if you can, if you're still trying to make contact with the civil society network in your country, please continue to make that contact. If you have not already completed that form from the chat box, please do that today because those teams are moving ahead and they will start to work together this month to craft their response to the government's voluntary national review. So you will not want to miss that opportunity. And continue gathering your ideas, your details, your images that you might like to contribute to the JCoR SDG Lab. You could go back and watch the recordings of maybe 1 or 2 sessions of your regional forum on sustainable development, which again, the links are here and will be shared with you again by email. And also look to read one of those written reports from civil society from the past. And finally, make sure that you have on your calendar that we will meet again as a whole global delegation on the 2nd of June, and that will be at the same time as our meeting today. Are there any final questions that anyone has about what to do next, or anything that I just shared in that looking ahead section? As always, there will be a follow-up email from me that will have all of the slides and all of the links from today, and we will share them in English and Spanish and Portuguese. And we will also put the recording of today's call onto that same playlist on JCoR's YouTube channel. So if you want to revisit it, or if anyone else in your congregation wants to catch up if they missed the call, we will put them there as soon as possible. And we will look forward to seeing all of you again on the 2nd of June. Thank you all very much for your very valuable time, and for all of the good work and follow-up and meeting and communication that you have been doing in between these calls, in order to be as involved as you can and engaged as you can in the many kinds of preparation that are happening in advance of the HLPF. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you, and all of your energy and enthusiasm. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
And of course, big thanks as well to Anna and to Vivian, who are here to interpret and to
Thank
make
you.
this
Thank
meeting
you,
so
everyone.
possible.
God
Thank you.
bless.